name is Angela. I'm the creator and creative director behind the VR AR art studio, 100 Blue. Just want to make sure you can all hear me okay. Okay, cool. Awesome. I'm based in California. I'm a VR AR creator. I want to tell you a little bit about myself before I dive too deep into things. I got my start in VR about 3 years ago. I got my start specifically in live action. Is everybody familiar with the term live action? Anybody who's not? Okay, cool. So basically live action is filming real life things. So it's like the use of cameras like this one to film real life occurrences. So with VR, there's a very special technique in doing that. So for example, with a 3D camera, to film something in live action, what you do is you grab one of the, off-the-shelf cameras from, Best Buy or anything like that from the States or wherever you are, and you film. With 360 VR, since you have a 360 environment, you have to get a little bit more creative. And we're still at a point where super high quality, high production, high level films in 360 VR don't have sort of a one lens camera. So what we've been doing over the past few years is basically taking a bunch of cameras together and putting them into a 360-degree array. And you take all of that footage together, and then you have to literally it's called stitching. You have to stitch all that footage together to make up 360 degrees of virtual reality footage. So when I first got my start into VR, that's what I did. I was a stitcher, and then I was an editor, and then I was a creative director. And what that really did for me was help me understand sort of the challenges of a 360-degree environment. And what really taught me is that it's just another medium. That's basically what you have with virtual reality, is that you're not limited to a screen anymore. We've suddenly jumped into this medium where you're completely immersed into a whole new world. So before I dive deep into the implications of that, I want to kind of show you what my studio has been up to over the past few months. And then, I also want to be very engaged with you guys, so if you have any questions at any point, feel free to raise your hand and interrupt me, and we'll do that. So here's an overview of what I've been up to. So after doing some live action, I finally started feeling that a lot of live action was starting to feel the same. So like I was saying, we're still at a point where kind of technology is a little bit limited with live action. There's not a lot of ways to basically put together a really high quality, high production, super realistic virtual reality production that's in live action. And so as an artist, I wanted to kind of dive deep into the art side of things, and whatever that meant. And so I took some time to kind of figure out what that would mean for me. I was a 2D artist on the side. I was doing a lot of watercolor on paper. And so I wanted to kind of figure out what would that look like in virtual reality. Would they be animated? If they weren't animated, how would I do that? What would that mean for the 360 environment? What would that mean for the viewer? If you're standing in the middle of that sphere, who are you in that story? Like John was talking about, who are you in that story in the middle of that sphere? Are you engaged with the characters? Are you not? I wanted to kind of figure out all of those things. And what's really cool about CG and AR and CG and art in VR is that there's, right now at this point anyway, there's a lot of room for experimentation. How many of you are kind of familiar with the spectrum of virtual reality? Okay, cool. So basically at the very low end of the point, you have physical environment, which is what we are in right now, or allegedly. A lot of people believe that we are living in a simulation, which is yet to be disproven, so we'll see where that takes us. But a little bit further down that line, we're in augmented reality. But what that means is basically you have either your phone that's put up in front of you, or you have a device on your head, and basically what it is it projects 2D elements onto real life. There's a lot of use cases for that, including construction, for example. There's an awesome company in LA that specifically specializes in augmented reality for construction. And then further down that spectrum, we have what we call mixed reality. And mixed reality is basically just like AR, but you're allowed to interact. You're able to interact with the elements that are up in front of you on your face with the device on your head. So they're very responsive to when you interact with them. Basically, they are as if they were real, but they're CG. And then at the end of that spectrum, you have virtual reality. That's where you're completely immersed in an entirely new reality. You don't have any sense of the real world at all. And so my studio has dabbled with sort of the beginning end, which is AR, and the final end, which is virtual reality. So I'm going to talk about all of that. One thing I want to cover with sort of all the case studies I'm going to go over is, this is a really key question, is that why is good design important for VR and AR? And this GIF is so critical to me. And this is something I try to show everybody, because if you look at this, the elements that are real in this is, of course, the woman walking, the two men walking behind her, the taxis, and then everything else is overlaid on top. And basically what this scene is trying to do, whoever built the scene, this was also, by the way, this was, I'm pretty sure this is sarcastic. I don't think anybody actually built this as a real viable product that's out there. So basically, what this person was trying to get to is that it's really annoying to have so much in front of you trying to grab your attention. And this is something that is key to all user experience across all media, including web, including mobile, including everything. But it's suddenly so critical, specifically in immersive media, because you have so much room to tell user things. You have so much room to tell them things, to give them call to actions, and to give them stories to tell them. And so this is something that basically, I'm trying to tell you to stay away from this. So behind the studio at 1 Third, like I was saying, I was wanting to experiment with what would watercolor art look like in virtual reality. There was a lot of, especially 3 years ago, but even now, there's so much CG content out there, and a lot of that is so beautiful, and a lot of it is very practical, and a lot of it is very thematically appropriate. But what I wanted to do was kind of take a step back and say, what would watercolor on paper, basically authentic art brushes and authentic imperfect brushes, look like in virtual reality? So what I started to do was literally I scanned my art, and I took it to Photoshop, I polished it, and then I went to the first thing I knew, which is Adobe After Effects. So Adobe After Effects is something that is able to, with the plugin called Metal, you're able to create 360 environments out of it. And so what I did was basically put my modular art into that. And I think here we have sort of my first MVP, I would say. So basically what I did was, just like I said, I took those 2D pieces, I pieced them together in Adobe After Effects, and then animated them. And out of that, basically I realized that you could really be able to create experiences that are very viable, specifically for anybody who wanted to create 360 VR experiences for their audiences. What I was specifically interested in at the time, and even now, it's very much something that I try to pitch to clients as much as possible, is specifically 360 video. So how many of you have seen 360 video on Facebook? Awesome. How many of you have seen it on web? And then on desktop, and then how many of you have seen it on mobile? Cool. So if you haven't seen it, basically you are able to scroll across 360 degrees of video on the Facebook app, whether it's on your desktop via a browser like Chrome that enables VR, or on your mobile app through Facebook. So what's really cool about that is that people, specifically clients, clients are able to access their audiences much more easily through 360-degree video. So especially when we're talking to a lot of brands who are looking for marketing experiences for their audiences, a lot of their audiences are oftentimes already on Facebook or already on YouTube. And those are the two platforms right now that enable 360 virtual reality in a very accessible way. So since a lot of their audiences are already on there, they get, okay, well, I want to kind of put up an experience for them through that medium. And so that's what I ended up doing a lot of, and that's what really put this video on the map. So these are some examples of sort of what the work looks like, sort of step one. This is what step one looks like. You have all these sketches on paper, then you polish them up, and then you take them into After Effects, and then you literally build 360-degree environments out of those 2D pieces. And what's really cool about this is that it allowed me to create very modular work. So one thing that you notice here is that the backgrounds are all the same. They're just in different perspectives, they're behind different girls, they're behind different scenes. And so that's really something that was super cool about it. And what ended up being super cool about this method specifically is because I also was able to take all of this modular work and make everything isometric. So everything was, the same size. I was able to shrink them or expand them accordingly according to whatever project. And so that really allowed me a very, very fast turnaround for my, for all of my MVPs, all of my minimal viable products. So but that's something that's also really enabled my process because you're able to kind of take everything into VR as quickly as possible and iterate really quickly. And that's something that's super critical, specifically with virtual reality, because there's so much friction to put on a headset. There's so much friction to kind of get to the point where you launch an experience, you put on the headset, and sometimes it takes some time to load, and then you get acclimated into the environment. And so it really allowed me to kind of minimize all the workflow that precedes that step, and then everything was iterated really quickly. So these are examples of things that are different pieces that have been used in different ways. These are all snapshots from 360 environments. So I'm going to show you the first kind of client project that put me on the map after I developed this method. And this project was for Mary Claire magazine. So they kind of approached me with this idea of how do we tell a really immersive, exciting experience for our Facebook audience through the story of these three girls getting ready for their summer cover shoot. And so what I did was created 3 different sets, 3 kind of photo shoot sets, where all the girls were getting ready for their covers. And so one thing that was really interesting was that specifically for the Mary Claire audience, and also especially in the summer of 2016, not a lot of their audience is familiar with 360. And this is something that's really critical. And obviously, as a lot of you I think are user experience designers, and so you really want to think about where does the user come from, and what are their experiences like before coming into your experience. Are they somebody who's very familiar with web already? Are they super familiar with mobile already? Are they not? And so this kind of thought process applies just the same way with virtual reality or 360 video even. And so that was a really critical question for me, is how do we get the user to really interact with this experience without kind of being distracted by the novelty of 360. We didn't want them to be just aimlessly scrolling around without sort of a reason. Like, we don't want people to just scroll around just because they're kind of interested, like, oh, what is this? We want them to really be engaged with the experience that we built for them. And so something that I ended up using, of course with a lot of user testing, was this little table, this little white table. If you notice, Selena Gomez, this Mary Claire cover shoot, was the first set that I covered. And then that table is the one element that moves across all of the 3 sets. What this basically acts as is it's basically sort of a visual cue for the user to keep following it so that they can look around the 360 environment in a kind of a logical sense. So they move all the way from one cover to another cover to another cover, and this table moves along with them. Another product I want to talk about was for Live Nation. So they have an artist that they were very proud of whose name was Flop. He was a DJ, and he wanted to kind of tell a music video story through a very exciting medium, obviously in virtual reality. He had a very loyal, kind of a niche but very loyal audience. And so this is the project. audience was a very niche royal audience, they were also not at all familiar with virtual reality. And they wanted to use this opportunity as sort of a pop-up experience. So they had a pop-up experience at different malls where the artist was, used to performing, and they would bring the users in, I'm used to calling them users. They would bring his fans in, and they would experience this virtual reality experience. And what was something that was really interesting about them is that they were so passionate about his work. And so something that we decided to do was to actually tell this music video through the perspective of first person. So what this means is that, I don't know if you noticed in different parts, and I'll cover this a bit in a couple of minutes, but what you are able to see when you put on the headset is when you look down, you're able to see the DJ's body. And so we created a camera array that was a 360 first-person point of view camera. So it not only captured everything around him, it also captured everything down here. And so when the viewer looks down, they're able to see his hands, his body moving, and so they kind of are stepping into his shoes in quite a literal way. So this is a very interesting challenge because we've found through a lot of first-person POV work that this kind of, first of all, gets rid of a lot of the motion sickness issues that used to come with VR. How many of you have gotten motion sickness in virtual reality? It's a pretty common issue. I don't want to say that it's detrimental or anything like that, but it's a fairly common issue. And we found through a lot of studies of our own, but also looking up, a lot of studies through different universities, especially Duke, for example, whenever they put just a little simulation of a nose in virtual reality, suddenly the user felt completely grounded. Suddenly they felt, okay, I'm in this experience, this is me, and I'm going to be able to feel very comfortable. Suddenly everything switches in their brain, this feels natural to me, as opposed to being sort of a floating camera across the 360-degree environment. So this is something that really enabled us to play around with a lot of different experimentations, including slow motion. Slow motion is generally a pretty big no-no in VR because this kind of adds to the whole motion sickness drama. And so we were able to play around with that. We were able to play around with reverse. We were able to play around with a lot of cool effects in that music video. But again, one thing was that the viewers were not experienced with virtual reality. And so what we ended up doing was we wanted to introduce a classic 2D screen for them. Whenever they put on the headset, we introduced a classic 2D screen for them, and then slowly and gradually that 2D screen expands into a 360 environment. So they get a chance to get acclimated to that experience. Okay, I'm in a 360 environment, but all I see right now in front of me is this 2D screen, and then suddenly the 2D screen expands. So it's sort of like this introduction process, and this is what it looked like for them inside the headset. And so you can see that the mouse moving, and this is the 360-degree version screencast, if anybody's wondering. Now, the second important introduction for this project, for the user whenever they stepped into this experience, is not only is this 360, but this is specifically first-person point of view. And so we wanted to have the second introduction to them, that, okay, please look down at your body, you have a body in first-person POV VR. And so what that looked like was that music bar dropped down all the way to the laptop level here, and suddenly they realized, oh, I have a body, because that was, again, the visual cue that allowed them to drop their gaze down. Another cool thing about this, okay, so this is, for example, the reverse effect that we were able to play around with, and of course, you want to be able to test everything in VR, and especially as quickly as possible. So I recommend a lot of people to, if you're experimenting with virtual reality for the first time, I really recommend that you kind of test things super quickly, iterate really quickly. So try to get things into the headset as quickly as possible, get it on your head, see what's going on, and then iterate, and then, recycle. So another cool thing about this was that it was a music video, and so when they kind of invited me to create the art for this music video, I wanted to kind of see what could we do that was different. I didn't want to just draw on top of the live action because this is a really interactive, very exciting music experience. And so what we did was we figured out a way to have the hand-drawn strokes be bouncing to the music, to the beat of the music in real time in virtual reality. So these are, actually let me go back to that. So these were the first preliminary versions of those clouds that showed up in the beginning of the music video. And so you're trying to see that, we were trying to experiment, okay, how do we make them really interesting, really in sync with the music. And so this was the first prototype of that. And eventually, of course, we figured out a way to have the beats literally pulsing to the beat of them, the strokes pulsing to the beat of the music. So along with that project came a virtual reality app experiment. So we wanted to we wanted people to kind of experiment different ways of, we wanted basically to sort of have a cohesive way for them to get to that music video. Because they eventually wanted to create several music videos that were different from this one as well. And so in order to navigate these cohesive experiences for this artist, what we did was basically create a virtual reality app where people can choose the experience that they want to go into. Something that's really interesting about designing user interfaces for VR is that there's a very unique set of challenges. And one of them is field of view. So basically, when you put on a headset, there's a pretty limited amount of field of view. And so what you want to do as a UI designer is you want to make sure that everything that's really critical to you is right in the field of view of the viewer. You want them to make sure that they're able to see everything in front of them. Even if they look around, if they look behind them, maybe you want to reward them, but at the same time, you don't want them to be suddenly discovering things behind them that are really critical. And if they hadn't looked back there, they'd be like, well, why didn't you tell me to look back there? So what we did was basically just make sure everything was right in front of center. Another really interesting challenge, specifically when designing VR apps in this medium, is you kind of have this challenge of figuring out how do we normalize different heights. So I'm 5'2", for example, which is probably on the shorter end. Somebody who's 6'2", which is a pretty common height for a lot of people. Somebody who's 6'2" is going to have a different experience looking at this experience. So basically what we have to figure out is how do we normalize all these different heights? How do we make sure that everybody who's looking at this experience is able to see at a normal angle? So what we ended up doing, basically the answer to that, was putting everything at depth. And that also, at the same time, covered the field of view issue. So when you put everything at depth, not too far, but also not too close, you're able to kind of cover all of these problems, the solutions to all of these problems. The next project I want to talk about is one that was very special to me. This was a 360 VR documentary for Al Jazeera that just came out a few months ago. It premiered at the Vancouver Film Festival in last October, I believe, and it's being nominated for a bunch of awards right now. I'm very excited about this one because it tells the story of how many of you are familiar with the oil spill crisis in Nigeria about 10 years ago? So a lot of communities in Nigeria are still suffering from the consequences of that oil spill. And so basically Al Jazeera approached me to kind of help them tell the story of what's going on in those communities to this day in a 360-degree virtual reality immersive environment. So this is the trailer for it.
10 years ago, this creek in mangrove swamps was busy with fishing boats. This is near Bodo City, a town in the Niger Delta in Nigeria. This area was once full of green plants, thick enough to provide shade for resting fishermen. In late 2008 and early 2009, a corroded shell pipeline burst. It spilled toxic crude oil into the creeks, killing the mangrove swamps, local wildlife, and the fisheries. Fishermen and fish farmers, like community activist Pastor Christian, were once able to catch enough fish in the swamps to build homes and send their children to university. Amnesty International estimates it could take up to $1 billion in over 20 years to restore the community to health.
So with this project came, again, the same challenge. How do we make sure that everybody who watches this experience is able to completely absorb the story of the documentary while still being completely engaged and not distracted by the novelty, or potentially the novelty of 360 VR? So they approached me with a very simple concept. We want to enhance our live action with some sort of art experience. And so what I proposed was to basically keep 180 degrees of those 360 completely the same in live action, and then I get to take 180 degrees, the rest of the 180, and those would be sort of my canvas. And so I took those 180 degrees, kind of enhanced them with my art to show what Nigeria used to look like before the oil spill. And so when you look to the left, you are able to see all of the art intertwined with the live action. And the art kind of showed a very beautiful, very verdant, very green story of what Nigeria used to look like before the oil spill. But when you look to the right, you see the very detrimental state that it currently is in. So this is a very interesting project because it was a very stark contrast when you looked from left to right. And it really was able to amplify that story much, much more. So these are some screenshots from that documentary. So just for the intro, we decided to take 360 degrees and give it all the art by itself, and so that's what you watched in that trailer at the beginning. Do you have any questions so far, by the way? Okay, cool. And these were, I used that same process that I was telling you about earlier, so these were screenshots of the art that started the whole project. So this is a project for Lionsgate. How many of you watched the movie Nerve a couple summers ago? Nerve was a pretty fun movie. It starred Emma Watson and Dave Franco, and it basically followed the life of a teenager who kind of gets interested. He gets basically caught up in all this bad action through this viral app that dares people to do their greatest fears. And so Lionsgate approached us with this idea of recreating one of those dares in first-person point of view live-action virtual reality. So basically, you get to step into the body of basically Dave Franco. It was his stunt double, that's a secret. You get to step into his body, and you're able to experience that dare that he has to do in the movie in virtual reality. So I think I have a trailer. So this is the CG version. This is a prototype, and then eventually we recreated it in virtual reality, in live action virtual reality. We had to also create a virtual reality app for those experiences. But let me show you sort of the reaction reel that people had to go through. Obviously, as you can see, in first-person point of view, experiences are much, much more visceral than standard virtual reality. So this is a really fun project. I like to kind of take very lighthearted projects every once in a while. VR is really cool because as an immersive medium, it's able to really instill this sense of what we call empathy in you. It's able to instill this sort of sense of, oh my god, I'm in the shoes of this person, what do I do? How do I help them? Or I can't believe I just experienced this. For example, there's this virtual reality experience, I think it's called solitary confinement, is that what it's called? So solitary confinement basically takes you into the cell of somebody who is in solitary confinement. And I think it only lasts a few minutes, but by minute 2, I would say, you're kind of done. You say, I cannot believe this is the life of a person, this is what they have to go through. So anyway, this is a very powerful medium, but to kind of stay sane, I think it's important to every once in a while take some lighthearted projects. Do I have any questions so far? Just because I want to wrap things up pretty soon, so. Okay. Let me track back. So Snapchat approached me a few months ago to create an AR experience for their new Snapland studio. So if you don't know, with Snapchat you're now able to create your own AR experiences. So you're able to kind of, with any 3D models that you already have, you're able to take them into Snapchat, give them an animation, and then transmit that code to anybody that you want, and you can use that experience through Snapchat. So what I did was used Paint 3D. How many of you are familiar with Paint, regular Paint, Microsoft Paint? So Paint is back, guys. So Paint 3D is the new and improved version of Paint. It's basically allowing you to basically use a pencil that is on Surface Pro for Microsoft, and you're able to create 3D shapes and forms, and it's a very rudimentary product, so you're not able to kind of do very fancy things with it. But what's really cool about it was that I partnered up with Microsoft to be able to kind of test those products for them and kind of give them feedback. And so so I ended up using those tools specifically for my Snapchat project. So this was released over Christmas, and this was the experience that was created for.
Today I'm taking you to one of my favorite spots in LA that actually has a pretty interesting history behind it. About 100 years ago, there was a developer who had this crazy idea of building a Venice of America. I'm super inspired by the color scheme of this place, the architecture, the flowers. The only thing missing are magical, colorful, hot air balloons. So I'm gonna make that happen.
So I'm going to be creating a lot more AR soon. I have a few partnerships that I'm really excited about. So I'll be able to share more of that very soon. One thing that I also want to talk about is Tilt Brush. How many of you have tried Tilt Brush? Okay, cool. So if you don't know, Tilt Brush is a tool that's been acquired by Google now. You're able to step into virtual reality with the headset on, with the hand controllers, and you're able to draw in a 3D environment. But it's obviously not only 3D, it's also virtual reality. So you're able to literally step into your paintings. So it's something that's really cool because I ended up getting asked by different events to kind of paint live for their audiences. So I'll be, like, for example, on stage with my headset and my hand controllers, and what I see and what I'm doing within the headset gets projected onto a screen like this. So what's really cool is that it's a very kind of, I guess it's a very accessible way of showing virtual reality to people who are not very familiar with the concept at all. So I'm out there painting, and I'm completely immersed in my virtual reality environment, but we're projecting everything to everybody on the screen. So they're able to kind of go through that experience with me, see my hand movements at the same time, and kind of, it gives them a very sort of tactile way of understanding what virtual reality can operate as. So this is an example of one of those projects. Does anybody have any questions? Last chance, I think. Yes.
How did you on the last scene? How did you put yourself in the?
Yeah, awesome question. So this is what we call green screen mixed reality. So you're able to kind of entwine live action along with what you're seeing within the headset in technically real time. But basically what you do is you put up a green screen, you have the artist within the virtual reality headset and everything, and then basically you just composite the footage live onto each other. It's a pretty simple way. There's specific software to do it, but basically it's live compositing. Yeah. Any other questions? Okay, cool. Well, you can stay in touch with me on Instagram. I'm at 1/3 Blue. On Twitter, I'm at Angela Haddad. And 1/3blue.com. Thank you so much.